Okay, so if you've bought one of these kits and if you're watching along and you're like, well, I don't have a kit, don't worry. I have, I think, 6 or 7 of these kits left. They're in my store, RockinHFarmToys.com. Search T370 and you'll find them without any trouble. And like I said, if you want to build along, this is and you've never done anything before, this is a great, great place to start. Let's just talk about what we have here. You got front and rear tires, front and rear wheels, tanks with steps, and then you have a battery box with steps. You have the interior, the cab, of course, and then you have this service bed, and then you have the frame. Now, you'll notice that the frame, let's just take a look at this real quick, because you're going to get to learn how to stretch a frame. The frame is not right in any way, shape, or form, is it? But luckily, we can overcome that, and we'll get there, okay? But for now, we're just going to set that off to the side. Okay, how do you clean 3D? I get this all the time. Eric, I bought some of this stuff. How do I clean it? Now, this will not apply to every 3D printed part that you purchase. If you purchase something from me, then this applies. But if you buy it off Shapeways or from another vendor, I don't know where they're getting their stuff printed or in what material it is. So the rules are different for all different materials and styles of 3D printing, okay? Some require different treatments. This is what I do, and I get really good results. You take your part, and this is isopropyl alcohol. Just good old-fashioned rubbing alcohol. You can buy it for $1 at any discount store, probably even a Quick Mart if you have one local. But you can buy it anywhere for $1, and you get a big old bottle of it. And it's nothing fancy. You can buy the store brand. All it is, it's just rubbing alcohol. That's it. I keep a good jar of it here just because I like to dip parts. So all I'm doing here is I'm dipping the part in the rubbing alcohol. I'm wiping off any impurities and weird stuff that might have happened as I was handling it, or left over from the printing process. You'll notice also that there's pegs on the back of these different parts, or in this case, look at these steps. They're wired together. This little plastic wires there, right? Well, why do I do that? Why don't I cut them flush so it's nice and neat and clean? Well, a lot easier to grab that and dip it and paint it than to not have it. That's the only reason I leave those in there. So on a lot of my parts, you're going to say, wow, that's not neat and clean, Eric. Well, the reason is I've bought 3D printed parts from guys, and I've bought them online, and you know what? After you clean them, if that peg's gone, then you got to hold it like that. Well, that's not good. So I leave the pegs on there because I like to have something to grab onto when I'm painting. So that's why all my parts still have that little peg on there. Okay, so you're just going to dip those parts. You can dip everything here. Or you can do it this way too. If you just have a bottle of rubbing alcohol, get you a rag. Nice thing about rubbing alcohol, it doesn't cause any, or at least doesn't cause me any skin irritation. I don't have to worry about chemicals on my fingers. That's why I like rubbing alcohol. And it does leave these parts, just gives them it just works there. So use a rag, you can dip it, whatever you want to do. And I have never experienced where this material has been affected by the rubbing alcohol. If you use other more noxious or powerful chemicals like lacquer thinner, it will turn your plastic to goo. So don't use lacquer thinner. If you do, darn sure make sure you put it on a rag and just wipe gently, but don't drown it. Okay. Another thing too is that alcohol is going to evaporate somewhat quick, so you don't have to worry about getting every little bit of it off, because it'll sit there and evaporate after you've kind of wiped it down. Okay, once you get all your parts clean like that, you're ready for prime and paint. That's all there is to it. your tires, I just hit them, and let me talk about paint real quick. So here's the kind of paints that I've used on all of my 3D printed stuff. These are the only things that I've used, to be honest. I've used store brand paint like this and primer. I've used this brand of paint on it, and I've used this kind of paint, which is automotive paint. Let me get you a better bottle so you can see what I'm talking about. Here we go. So I've used this kind of paint before. These are basically the only things I've ever used, so I cannot speak about what other kinds of paint would work. So if you're using, I've never used like this brand of paint out of this. I've not used this stuff specifically. I've used it in the aerosol, but I've never used it out of the jar, you know, with thinner and through an airbrush. So I can't speak what this would do. I imagine it would be fine. I don't know why it wouldn't. But basically, by and large, these are the three styles of paint that I've only used. And the only reason I use it is because this is what I have on hand. So these are the kind of paints and primers I'm using. Okay. Obviously, I'm using this through my airbrush. So there you go. So that's what I'm using. So your assignment, once we get done here, if you bought the kit, and if you're just joining this, I've got about 6-7 kits left. If you haven't bought the kit and you want to, your assignment after you kind of clean all your parts is to paint everything the colors you want. I don't care what colors you painted, it's entirely up to you. Okay? So between now and next Monday, you want to prime everything, you want to paint everything, and then you'll be good for the next lesson. Flat black or gloss black, your choice on tires. I usually just hit my tires with flat black. Again, I'm going to stick them in my helping hands like so. And I'm going to paint them right there with the wire attached. And then, once the paint's dry, I'm going to come in and I'm going to clip that wire, and then I'll use a black Sharpie to cover up the white where the wire was. Okay? I'm getting slightly ahead of myself here because there's one thing that we need to talk about before we get too much farther, and that's these wheels. Now I'm going to cut this wire in the middle. That way I have something for my helping hands. But I want to test fit these wheels. Okay, so this is kind of annoying, I'm not going to lie, guys. I do not like 3D printed wheels and tires. Just for the record, I want everyone to know that. These are the nemesis. These are the devil. The devil. And the reason why is I can never get these right. I can never get them to fit perfectly. They're either too loose or too tight. One of the two. It's never in the middle. Anyway, long story short, you want to just test fit these and make sure that they fit loose, or at least that you can slide them together like so. See how I'm going here? I'm just kind of working that in. I want to make sure that this rim fits in that tire. That way, if we have to alter this at all, we'll do it before we paint. Okay, so that one's going to work. So we're just going to leave that alone. See, this is ideal. But if you can ever get rubber tires, man, that is the bee's knees. I think rubber tires are much better than these tires. Anyway, but that's what we have, right? Okay. Okay. Now, we talked about helping hands. We're going to put these in helping hands and paint them flat black. We'll just do that quick. And if you have questions, please ask. That's what the comments are for, so make sure you ask. So those are ready for paint. After you've cleaned your tanks, we can stick those in helping hands. Those are ready to go. We can put the interior in helping hands. Now, All of the only thing that's going to be exposed here, what you're going to see from the outside, is usually the seats and maybe the floor. So I like to put my helping hands right here in the side, because you're not going to get paint there, and then you won't see that part anyway. So who cares, right? So that's ready for prime paint. We're going to set that down over yonder, and so on and so forth. Let me just get these out of the way because they're, so I don't mess them up. Okay. Next, a lot of guys that want chrome rims, so let's talk about how we're going to make these chrome. You have choices. Obviously, you could use like aluminum spray paint. There's nothing wrong with that. It'll get you an aluminum look. That's fine. If that's what you want, then you're doing it perfect. If you want more of a chrome look, there's answers for that too. And I think some of you probably know where I'm headed. If you know, leave a comment. But type fast because I'm about to give you the answer. Okay. So, aluminum paint will do this. There is another product called Spaz Sticks. It's this product. I've used it. I'm not thrilled with the airbrush. I've heard the aerosol is better, but I've not used the aerosol yet. Your other option is, let me grab another product. This is the one that I normally go through. Yep, there you go, Tammy. You got it. Chrome pens. So I use this through my airbrush, and this works great. You don't need to thin it. You just pour it into the cup of your paint, of your airbrush, and it is ready to go. I mean, shake it up, of course, before you pour it in your airbrush, and it goes on like butter. Oh my gosh, it sprays so awesome, and the results are wonderful. If you don't have an airbrush, as Tammy said, we're going to use a chrome pen. So this is a Molotow chrome pen. This is the 2mm. You can buy these anywhere online. So if you don't have one, you want one. I think if you live in a metro area, a bigger city than I do, and you have a Hobby Lobby, I think Hobby Lobby, other hobby stores would carry these. I just buy mine online because there's not a Hobby Lobby for 50 miles. And at $3 gas in my 18-mile-a-gallon Ford, I can pay shipping. So, to get the chrome on your rims, go ahead and use your 2mm or whatever chrome pen you have, and goober some chrome in there. Now, I'm not going to get chrome on the outside because you're not going to see the outside of this tire. You can chrome the backside if it makes you happy. I'm not going to. I'm not going to add chrome to the outside for two reasons. One, you won't see it, and two, it's going to create friction when you slide this tire and rim. When I dry fit it, we're already pretty tight, and I don't want to add to the circumference of that tire with chrome. Okay, if you go with your chrome, if you put it on too heavy and you see that one of the holes is filled with chrome, just gently with your mouth, blow the chrome through the hole and open it back up. That'll work just fine. I've done that a lot. So you can see we've got chrome on both rims, and was careful to get chrome on the outside edge of that rim. Now I would tell you, if you're going to do this, do it sooner than later. Here's why. I found, and this is just my experience out here in southwest Kansas, and it's pretty dry here, so I don't know how it'll behave in other parts of the country. I go ahead and I put my chrome on it, and then I just let this sit over here for a couple of days, and I don't touch it. I let that chrome get nice and cured. If you touch the chrome too soon, and you know, I let it go for 48 hours. If you let it go if you touch it too soon, this nice shiny luster it has right here, you're going to dull that. It'll lose its luster when you touch it because it's still kind of soft. So go ahead and let that just sit there and chill for a couple of days. And if you let it in the house, if you got a back bathroom or something, or utility room, just let it sit in the utility room, out of the road so nobody bumps it, and that'll be good enough. Okay? If you have a shop or something, that's great too. Just let it go at room temperature. If it's not too humid, that's better. Your battery boxes that we cleaned a little bit ago, again, if you want to chrome your battery boxes, you can do that with your brush or your airbrush, or your chrome pen. Either way is going to work just fine. Just make sure you give it plenty of time to cure. Obviously, you are free to paint the battery box and your fuel tank any color you wish. It's entirely your call. So I might see if I got some aluminum paint right here or here in the shop and just hit those with aluminum so I kind of have a brushed look to it. I think that might look cool on this one. Okay? All right. Let's review your assignments. Okay, 1, make sure all your parts are in good order. 2, clean everything with rubbing alcohol. If you happen to use a rag, see all that little lint and fuzz and crap from my rag that's been left over? You'll want to take compressed air or a dry rag and wipe this fuzz and lint off so it's not on your model, so you don't get that in your paint. So make sure just make sure that that's clean. After you've rubbed it or wiped it down with rubbing alcohol, clean all your parts, paint your frame, whatever color you want, paint your interior, and if you choose to chrome your wheels, make sure you chrome your wheels. Okay? And that's your assignment. That's it.